If you're in your 20s or 30s and life just feels hopeless and you're living in despair, this video is for you. Up until my early 20s, my entire life, I was overweight. And roughly at about 29, I was 283 pounds. And I decided to get my act together. At the time, I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was eating tons and tons of Panda Express. And life just seemed hopeless. I got fired, and that's when I decided to get my act together, or at least to get in shape. Talking to my younger self, I would advise that self-image is the most important thing we have. In fact, everything in society is pretty much designed to make us feel inadequate. We turn on the TV, we see these beautiful people, we go on social media, we see all this money flowing around, and you're sitting in your job. Maybe you're making 20 bucks an hour, maybe you're making 13 bucks an hour, or maybe you're making 100 bucks an hour, but there's always someone we can compare ourselves to and make ourselves feel crappy about. So self-image, I would tell my younger self, is the most important thing you can work on. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities to feel like crap, but every time those negative thoughts come in, it's an opportunity to make it positive. Never turn down an opportunity. Don't be a yes man, but you can be in a regular job. For instance, I was talking to some guy at Petco yesterday. He's been there forever. And finally, they offered him like a store manager to open a new store in a different state. So if you want to go into like regular life, the system, the matrix, you can do that. You just have to bite the bullet. I've said yes to so many opportunities in my life that weren't the right opportunity. I'm sitting here today basically unemployed, but I have some money in the bank and I'm figuring out the next step. This would be a perfect time in my life to feel despair. And sometimes that does happen, but it's also a perfect time in my life to look at the bright side and that I have plenty of time to figure things out. At 42, I'm halfway there. If you're in your 20s and 30s, you have so much time ahead of you. You could bite the bullet and you could do it for 20 years, or you could start working on what your passions are. I would also tell my younger self that I shouldn't have sold my condo. I got a really great deal back in '08. And anyone who's watching this, if you can save up enough money and you can get yourself a piece of property, that's going to be the best thing that you could do in your entire life, because then you have roots, you have a place to call home. And I would say at 42, one of the regrets that I have is selling that apartment. But however, it also gives me the opportunity, because we're talking about the bright side of things, to find another place to call home. So self-image, putting down roots. If you ever get depressed, depression is just a mix of chemicals in our head. It has nothing to do with really anything. Our subconscious doesn't know what's true or what's fake as far as reality is concerned. So a good way to get rid of depression is to work out. I'm not saying you're going to feel like $1,000,000 every time, but if you go for a run, if you go for a long ass walk, that's how I lost most of my 110 pounds. Or you go to like a Pilates or a boot camp or a yoga class, you're going to come out of there just feeling good about yourself. So if you start feeling those dark clouds of depression, exercise is the answer, not medication. My younger self, I fell into some painkiller habits, some Xanax habits. All these were prescribed by the doctor because I was fat and I was sad and I couldn't sleep because I hated my job. But in the end, the thing that saved my life was doing hot yoga. Pretty crazy. And the person that introduced me to that activity, maybe 11 years ago, I'm still friends with that person. And that leads me to the next piece of advice. If I was talking to my younger self, I would tell him that your friends are not going to last forever. You're going to have maybe 2 or 3 good friends that you have throughout your life. Maybe one friend, in my case, who you talk to all the time and who knows you since you were a kid. But all the times that you go off with your friends or you avoid your family or you put your girlfriend off because you want to hang out with the boys and get drunk, those people aren't going to be around because you are who you hang out with. And at the end of the day, no one wants to see you do better than yourself. In fact, I would make the argument that everyone is selfish as they should be, and that you have to always be looking out for yourself. And that comes with that saying yes thing. Because if you say yes, it needs to benefit you. It can't just be like, yes, I want to feel better about myself, or yes, I want to be part of the team. You should always be asking for more. That's what I was talking to the Petco guy about. He was talking to his coworker. Should I just be honest and tell them exactly how much money I need? And I didn't know what they were talking about at the time, but I told him, I don't know what you're talking about, but you always need to ask for at least 30% more. Because at the end of the day, people are going to nickel and dime you in business, and it's up to you to look out for yourself. Looking out for yourself is number one. Self-image, looking out for yourself, exercise, and having a plan. Last but not least, having a plan. If you have a plan, you're 5 steps ahead of the competition. Now, a happy life is living but having a plan keeps the ship on course. If your goal is to be in corporate America, do your time and get out. If you're going to work for the government, do your time and get out. If you have a business idea, don't veer off course once it starts going awry. I feel that every 3 to 4 years, I'm constantly pivoting. And if I was going to give a piece of advice to my younger self, which is advice to myself today, it would be to stick with the plan. And in order to stick with the plan, it's as simple as writing it down. Maybe it's in a binder, a journal, a notebook, but you got to have a plan in life, okay? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be 42 like me. You don't want to be basically unemployed. You're just a professional gambler who goes into the casino, makes money. You want to have something you're proud of doing every day, proud to go to work, proud of the business you have, and you want to be working towards your goals. You got any value out of this? Namaste.